Hi, so today I'm joined by Rob Kelly, digital marketing and social content specialist at Arsenal Football Club. Rob's been at Arsenal for over 8 years now, so very interesting time to be at a club. And we're going to be talking about creating content for such a large following. So Arsenal has over 20 million followers across different platforms. I'll just start off by reading out some of the stats before we begin. So there's 1.77 million followers on YouTube, 17.4 million Instagram followers, and 15 million Twitter followers. So thanks for coming on, Rob.
No worries. Thanks for having me on.
Cool, awesome. So my first question is, what's it like working at a football club in the marketing team? I imagine it's very high paced and emotions run high.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I won't lie. It's brilliant. You know, I've been an Arsenal fan since I was 5. So getting the job at Arsenal was a pretty amazing experience for me. And like I said, being there 8 years, so much has changed. You've launched on so many different platforms in the time I've been there. I mean, when I joined Arsenal, I think we were on 2 million Twitter followers now, and so I'm claiming all the credit, obviously, for all the followers that we've added. So like it is brilliant. I mean, it is brilliant. Like, you know, like every job, you'll have your little moans each day about certain things that are getting on your nerves, but then you sort of take a step back and realise that you're working for one of the world's biggest football teams. You've got a massive audience out there. You've got a captive audience. They're highly engaged. Arsenal fans are particularly well known for being very engaged on social and digital. So we've got a great audience to deal with. No complaints at all, and it's just really exciting. You know, like you say, it is very fast paced during the season. Obviously, it's a bit weird at the moment. Everyone on lockdown. Football, we don't know if it's coming back or not. And so we've got obviously a big challenge at the moment, trying to service an audience that still want your content, of course, because everyone's sort of stuck at home. Everyone's desperate for any old football content, but we try and sort of maintain our standards. We've got a big back catalogue of archive content that we can rely on, but I suspect, and we study our audience in detail, and we sort of listen to what they're saying, and I think there is a bit of fatigue about archive content now, so we've got to try and sort of up our game in terms of trying to get into our players at home, and that's a challenge in itself, to try and get hold of the players and try and get them to we've got all these ideas and trying to hook them up, trying to chat with some stars in US sports. That's sort of high on our agenda at the moment, and trying to launch all these things on TikTok as well, and but it's quite difficult when you can't actually get face to face. It's all digital. It's a bit tough to get into them. So that's a new challenge for us to face. But with any luck, we'll be playing football again, and might make life slightly easier, even though it will obviously be a big adaptation process, because I can't imagine there'll be many of us at games if games do return.
Fantastic. And I was really interested just to hear about the team structure and just general things, like, do you have much interaction with the players, and what's the marketing team look like at a football club?
Right, so I've got to get this right, because we've sort of we've got a very big team, and we've just restructured recently, actually, in the last about 3 months, and we're now. It used to be quite disparate. We used to be, like, my team used to be part of Arsenal Media Group, which wasn't actually owned by Arsenal itself. It was owned by an offshoot of it called Arsenal Broadband Limited, but that's all now been brought under, now all owned by the club. So the marketing department is basically split into 3. So sorry, I've just got some notes just so I make sure I don't get this wrong and get fired. So there's brand marketing, which looks after retail, events, stadium tours, things like that. We've got a digital experience department, which looks after membership, junior gunners. We've got the CRM team as part of that, and I'm part of the media team, which is obviously digital, social, publications, commercial content. So it's a pretty sizable team. And it's all, obviously, we're trying to do. Part of the purpose of the restructure was to try and make us more integrated, and so we can also, have a clearer message as a club to bring out.
Great. And what does do you work match days and things like that? So I imagine
Yeah.
it's quite reactive some days, is it?
So yeah, I mean, I work sort of probably 70% of games. Is I'm usually digital lead for a game. Yeah, probably 70% of the time, but I'm sort of in rotation with another couple of guys, and we have about on a match day, we might have sort of maybe 20 people working in the sort of media side, and that's including sort of the production
Mhm.
team as well, who's camera guys, producers, editors. So there is a lot of us working. So the job is sort of it is reactive in a way, but you have to have a clear plan in front of you. I sort of devise all the content plans for the media group across digital and social. So you have to have a very in-depth content calendar that you're
Yeah.
working off. You obviously have to plan things out. We'll have sort of two cycles really. It'll be sort of a match cycle and a non-match cycle. So the match cycle will obviously be pre-match, match, post-match. That you can pretty much guarantee what you're going to get there, but you've got to be adaptive to the circumstances. I told you, I knew my kids.
No worries. It's all
Can you
good.
just Sorry.
It's fine.
So yeah, you've got to be adaptive to the circumstances. Obviously, on a match, if somebody scores an incredible goal, we need to have editors there who are able to create some content around so that we can get the most engaging piece of content that comes out. And then the non-match cycle is obviously your midweeks really. So if a game, in general, because we're a Europa League club, unfortunately at the moment it tends to be Sunday, Thursday, Sunday for our matches. So you've got probably Tuesday and Wednesday tend to be the days where it's a bit quieter, and that's when you've got to plan probably a bit more in detail there about what you're going to put out. But obviously, you like I say, you've got to be adaptive to the circumstances because who knows what's going to happen. Football changes so quickly, and our policy has always been not necessarily. There's if you look at some of the other clubs in the Premier League, what one of the most well known is Man City, obviously, and they're I think they probably see it themselves that they're early adopters. They're often on platforms early. They try and react very quickly to things, and we try and react quickly to things. But we're not necessarily as bothered about being first to react, being first to do it. What we like to do is maybe take slightly more time and make sure that we're comfortable what we're producing. What we're producing is tonally right and is engaging as we want it to be. So, yeah. You have to be reactive, but there is a lot of planning that goes into our content.
Great. And I was really interested to hear about the guidelines of creating content when tensions are running high, and maybe when I say we, I mean Arsenal have lost a game, and there's all sorts going on in social media. What's your guidelines around that?
Well, we used to. So the policy always used to be essentially, if you have a really bad run of form, which, unfortunately, recent years, there have been the odd occasion of a really terrible run of form. The policy always used to essentially just be go dead quiet for 2 days. Let's sort of take the sting out of the anger on social and then sort of slowly reintegrate. But then we sort of reappraised that in recent years, and we're like, you can't just go quiet. You have to adapt your content calendar, of course, but you can't just go completely quiet. Fans still out there want to be engaged. You might get a sort of vocal minority who'll throw a lot of hate your way, but but if you just try and not take that personally, then you'll be all right. But yeah, I mean, as soon as you have a bad couple of results, and like I say, we're always across reading the reaction on social. You need to adapt your content calendar because there's nothing worse than being tone deaf to what the situation is. We spent a long time trying to build a strong relationship between us as the brand and our fan base, and that comes from sort of being a bit intelligent with the way that we deliver our content. If we've just lost 4-0, we're not going to produce something. We're not going to bring out some content on Monday of the players, mucking around and laughing their heads off. It's tone deaf, isn't it? And no one wants to see it. That bit of content will die a death anyway. And then of course, the other side is you could be planning a brilliant bit of content for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then something happens, and you don't want to just put it out anyway just because it's in your content plan. You need to give it the best chance of landing properly. So, we're completely sort of beholden to circumstances out of our control a lot of the time, but you just need to be intelligent about the way you approach things and listen to your fan base.
Great. I'd be quite interested to hear about the planning and around that. So you said that there was a kind of pre-match, post-match, and halftime and things like that. How far do you plan ahead? Do you look at the whole season and go, right, we've got Man United in 10 weeks' time, and we're going to have these sort of statistics and things like that? Or
no, it's not that far ahead. I try to plan at least 2 weeks. This is during regular season time, obviously, rather than now where we're planning further ahead because it's tougher. During a regular season, I try and plan at least 2 to 3 weeks ahead.
Yeah.
And have a content calendar pretty much filled in 2 to 3 weeks in advance. But we'll know. Obviously, you're aware of what's coming up. If you've got a massive game against United coming up, or you've got a semi-final, final coming up, the planning for those will start way out. For example, we knew. I mean, the biggest thing that I've worked on was Arsene Wenger leaving, and to be honest with you, we had no tip off about that at all. The first I heard about that was I got a call from my boss as I was walking to the station on the morning that he's being announced he was leaving. I got a call just to say, "Where are you?" And I was like, "I've just arrived at the station." He said, "Oh, can you turn around and go home?" No one else knows this, but we're about to get an announcement on the manager. And so you're sort of walking home thinking, "What is this?" And then it comes through, and you're thinking, panicking, just thinking, I don't want to leak this early because there's so many eyes on this. So we had no warning on that. So that's very reactive, because then you're racing to catch up, because suddenly you're like, right, well, all eyes are on you as the club. Really, this is going to be the news. It's going to dominate the news agenda for weeks and weeks and weeks and months, really, because there was a long lead up time to when he actually left. So that entire day was basically a blur, really. It's like, right, post the news, and then suddenly you're like, right, we need to find loads and loads of Arsene Wenger content that we've got in that we can just repopulate, get it out there, and then we're in constant meetings, speaking to. We have social channel managers at the club, so we have somebody looking after Twitter, someone after Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. So then you need to speak to them, right? How do we make the most of this on each of the platforms? How do we adapt our content plan for the day for your platforms? And then once that initial rush dies down, then it was about sitting down with the sort of head of video and everyone and trying to come up with, right, we need to come. He was what was there? It was about 4 or 5 weeks, I think, until the end of the season. So his last game. So we're like, right, we need to. So we've got quite a long gap to fill. But for when a manager's been there 22 years, you need to make sure that tonally that's right. You've got to get everything right. So there was a lot of planning going into that. There's a lot of late nights trying to make sure that everything that we were doing was tonally right, because you've just got to pay the right tribute to a guy that's done so much for the club. And I think we did really well. I definitely think so. We hit every platform. We got we broke all records, really, in terms of our engagement across a period of a month. And we would all our lives on Facebook and stuff we're getting ridiculous numbers on YouTube. So everyone's really proud of it. Everyone was knackered at the end of it because it was such a huge team effort. But that's a really good example of what it was like. It's trying to stay calm when everything is going on around you is quite difficult. I'm sort of nearly 40, so you get the younger guys who look after the channels like Twitter and stuff are coming up loads of ideas, and you've got to try and funnel it down and try and calmly think, right, hang on a minute, that's not going to work. That's going to work, or that's one of our partners might not be happy with that, or tonally that's not right. So there's a lot of stuff that you've got to go through, but it's really exciting working that sort of thing. What an amazing experience to work on that. I was lucky enough to be on the pitch for Wenger's last game at the Emirates.
Wow.
And did the final interview with him for Arsenal Media, and you stood there speaking to this club legend surrounded by 60,000 fans. It's a pretty amazing thing to be part of.
Wow, that's great to hear. So I didn't send you this question in advance, but it's just piqued my interest in terms of like the actual footballers. You hear about players like Paul Pogba being an absolute nightmare on social media for the club.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of input or kind of suggestions or guidance for players at all?
So at the moment we're in the process of sort of trying to. We've been doing it for about a year, trying to get closer to the players and to the players' social teams. So they might, they'll often ask for stuff from us. They'll ask for edits, or they might ask for carve-offs. If they've done a brilliant bit that we're going to put on YouTube, they'll ask for bits like that. But we're closer to some players than others. And some will ask for our advice on bits. Some won't. But it's completely dependent on the individual, really.
Fantastic. And just on some kind of quick fire questions now. They don't need to be quick fire answers, but
yeah.
So, what brands inspire you right now? It could be other clubs or just any brands in general in marketing.
Yes, I mean I'm going to be really boring and just say all sport brands really, because I'll be honest, I'm sport obsessive really, and really that's what sort of consumes me really. I think if you look at the NFL and NBA, I think they really knock it out of the park really with their social and digital content, and really that's often what we're sort of aspiring to be at that level, to be honest with you. I think you look at the Atlanta Falcons, I think they've got such a clear identity. They've got really fast, exciting edits. They've done some really nice emotive pieces which I really like. Miami Dolphins, I went to a meeting at Facebook a couple of years back, and they had some guys from the Dolphins were there. Wow. And they were sort of talking us through that, and not everything they do is absolutely out there and incredible, but they I think their strategy is that they work on certain campaigns and they pour everything into those campaigns, and they really raise the game with some of their photography. Their stills is just some of it's absolutely outstanding. They've got a great use of music on some of their edits as well. They license music for certain campaigns. They had a campaign with Run the Jewels, and it was sensational, I thought. If you look at NBA, Miami Heat do some brilliant fun stuff, really sort of in tune with their sort of fan base as well. And they're sort of close to home, really, like the England football team. I think over the last 3-4 years, I think they've really stepped up in a massive way. I think they've produced some brilliant stuff. Some of the content they were producing during the World Cup was outstanding, I thought.
Yeah.
I was really, really impressed with it. I think they've really bridged that gap between the team and the fan really well.
Yeah.
What else? Like European Tour Golf, I think is actually pretty good. I mean, they're helped by the fact they've got the rights to the footage, so that obviously is a big help. But they're pretty good. Soccer AM, I'm actually quite a fan of the way that they package things up. I think that the way they do things is very good. They just create snackable content really for Instagram and Twitter. It's very engaging. Their tone of voice is exactly in tune with their identity. So, yeah, they're who I think are very good at the moment.
Yeah, there's some really good examples. I'm going to have to check out those American kind of NFLs. I don't follow those at the minute, but definitely will be checking them out afterwards. In terms of marketing books or podcasts or kind of influencers, is there anything you recommend for people to learn more? Any favourite books at all?
I'm not like, I tell you what, and this is a really boring thing to say, but the only books I read really are like fiction. I'm not one for reading up like marketing books or anything like that, because I sort of, maybe I should do. Maybe I'll be better at my job if I did. But I mean, I will have a look at blogs. I'll look at listen to the sort of digital sport podcast, read the website, Sports Techie, #sports industry group. Their emails come through. That's what I sort of look at. And to be honest with you, I spend a lot of time looking at our competitors as well, seeing what they're doing, what are they doing well, what can we adapt to, and I'm sure that's not. I'm sure everyone in the industry does the same. It's you can learn from each other. Not saying that you don't want to copy what each other are doing by any stretch, but if someone's got a good idea, you might think, right, well, we can adapt that. We can make this. This is how we can make it our own. I mean, I get more insight from looking around, looking at those American clubs, looking at what another team I should have said who've stepped up and I think are very good at Chelsea as well. Chelsea do some really nice motion graphic stuff that is very impressive. So you look at that and that's what I do. And then, like I said, some of the other stuff, that digital sport podcasts and sports techie and stuff.
Great. Bit of a fun one. If you could place an ad anywhere in the world with any message on it, what would it be?
I was thinking about this and then I just thought, well, really, the only one that anyone wants to see at the moment is one for the coronavirus vaccine. Coronavirus vaccine now signed off, free worldwide distribution, lockdown over. Come on. That's what I want. That's what everyone wants, I'm sure.
Awesome. So just before I ask the final question, where can people find you if anybody wants to connect to you or they want to just hear more about? And do you have any requests to the audience?
So I mean, I'm on Twitter at Rob Kelly 2, but please don't expect anything from it. It's a very boring feed. I don't really tweet. I'm sort of lurking in the background, seeing what other people are saying. I'm on. I mean, you could find me on Instagram, but really you wouldn't get much out of it other than seeing pictures of me and my kids. And then you can get me on LinkedIn if you find me on LinkedIn. That'd be good to sort of make more connections on there. I've got no real demands on the audience. If they want to get in touch, that'd be great. I'm more than happy to chat to anyone. Really, it's always nice to chat sport. Yeah,
and just follow Arsenal Football Club because the content is really good. I've enjoyed it for many years, and there's all sorts of subcategories that come off it, and there's all sorts of other kind of channels that as well. So kind of the final one to summarize the podcast, what do you think would make all football clubs excellent at marketing?
I think the key thing is listen to your audience, know your audience in detail, what they're saying, how they feel, what are the in-jokes, what do they not like about what you're producing, what do they like about you, what are they proud of. You need to have that. You need to be absolutely in tune with them, because that needs to completely dictate your tone of voice. That needs to dictate your output, because people aren't going to engage with you if they don't like you. If you're too robotic, if you're constantly trying to sell them something, people aren't interested. People can see through it. You need to be authentic. You need to be empathetic. You need to adapt to the circumstances of your team. Fans can sniff out stuff. If they think what you're saying is a load of crap, then they'll call you on it straight away. You need to be credible. You need to be authentic. You need to be engaging. And if you get that right, and if you get halfway down that, if you get that halfway right, then I think people will give you the time of day. People will engage with you. People will like it. And I think football clubs have got so much better at that over the years. I've got to say, I think there's been a move in the last few years just to try and be a bit more colloquial with your fans. And I think football's adapted to that quicker than a lot of other sports, I think, and done it better than a lot of other sports. And we're really proud of the way that we've managed to sort of engage our fan base. And, hopefully we'll be able to continue to do that under, happy days under Mikel Arteta when we bring home the league next season.
Awesome. Well, I've really enjoyed this, Rob, and I really appreciate it. So thanks for coming on the podcast.
No worries. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Cheers.